Coming up on today's show, days after essentially ending all remote telecommuting for Tesla staff, Elon Musk appears to be preparing Tesla for a 10% job cut and hiring freeze after saying he has a quote-unquote super bad feeling about the economy. Chevrolet slashes the price of the Chevrolet Bolt EV and Bolt EUV, making one of the most affordable EVs you can buy in North America today, and Volkswagen uses the Force to advertise the Volkswagen ID Buzz electric wagon, with a little help from R2-D2, C-3PO, and Obi Wan Kenobi. These stories and more coming next. This is Ecotricity's EcoTEC Roundup show from New Zealand's only carbon zero certified renewable electricity company. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to electric vehicles in New Zealand. Switch today at ecotricity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup in the world of clean cars and green energy. Thanks for joining me. Earlier this week, Elon Musk sent emails to employees at both Tesla and SpaceX, effectively ending both companies' work-from-home policy due to COVID and telling non-factory staff that they needed to be at their desks in the office at least 40 hours a week or find a new job. It was followed early on Friday morning by news of an email sent to executives at Tesla in which Musk allegedly stated that he has a quote-unquote super bad feeling about the economy. Reuters reports that the email then goes on to state that Tesla needs to cut about 10% of its staff and execute a hiring freeze. The news comes after what's not been a particularly positive month for Tesla's share price, which at the time of recording was hovering at around $700 per share. At the time of filming this, neither Tesla nor Elon Musk have confirmed nor refuted Reuters reporting. BMW has officially unveiled its latest electric car in the form of the all-electric BMW iX1. Designed as an entry-level EV for the BMW brand, the iX1 xDrive 30, to give it its proper name, is powered by a twin-motor all-wheel drivetrain capable of 230 kilowatts peak and 494 newton-meters, 364 pound-feet of torque. BMW says the iX1 will accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, that's 62 miles per hour, in 5.7 seconds. Based on the new BMW X1 that's due to launch this year in several combustion engined variants, BMW says the iX1 will follow on later. There's no pricing or overall specs, and we still don't know which markets it will launch in. It's worth noting that though the iX1 is underpinned by the same fifth generation EV tech we'll see in the upcoming Mini Countryman EV. As dozy world governments slowly wake up to the impending doom that anthropogenic climate change poses for the world, we're starting to see more agreements get inked to decarbonize our society. This week, the G7, that's the US, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the UK, made a new agreement to, quote, predominantly decarbonize electricity sectors by 2035, end quote. Now, the observant among you will notice that the word predominantly looks like it might be a bit of a loophole, but according to the statements made by the G7, its ultimate goal is to phase out domestic unabated coal power generation. The country that will have to work the hardest to make this happen is Japan, which after the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011 has actually shifted more power generation to coal-fired power stations than less. Nevertheless, the G7 says it will propose this new goal of reaching net zero energy emissions to the wider G20 summit when it convenes this fall. Ever since Tesla unveiled the Tesla Bot, aka Optimus Subprime, at Tesla's AI Day last summer, Elon Musk and Tesla's focus has shifted significantly, moving towards a future where Tesla is viewed not as an energy or mobility company, but as a robotics and AI company. And while some industry robotics experts have questioned the achievability of Tesla's current timeline, Elon Musk took to Twitter this week to say that Tesla will be pushing its second AI Day, aka AI Day number 2, to September 30th this year. The reason? According to Elon Musk, he's hopeful that the company will have a working prototype of Optimus by that date. It makes sense for Tesla to delay its second AI day if that is indeed going to happen. Ultimately, Musk wants to use Optimus to perform simple and repetitive tasks that are either too boring or too dangerous for humans to do. We are super eager to see a functioning Optimus at the end of September, but we'd also be remiss to ignore the fact that Elon Musk has a tendency to underestimate exactly how long something will take to achieve. With the first Ford F-150 Lightning pickups now in the hands of eager owners, and Ford seemingly under-promising and over-delivering when it comes to delivery schedules, most customers appear to be getting their trucks weeks ahead of their promised delivery dates, we're starting to see some real-world experiences getting shared on social media. Among them, the real-world towing range of the F-150 Lightning when pulling a 23-foot Airstream trailer. Nick Schmidt, the very first retail customer to get an F-150 Lightning, headed out for a weekend trip with his family last weekend after getting his truck, and reported to the F-150 Lightning forum that the truck lost about one-half of its range when towing, which seems in line with what most people have been expecting. Interestingly, towing disables some Blue Cruise functionality and changes how regen braking works, but this real-world report shows that outside of media drives and internal tests at Ford, everything behaves as it should. Buick held a press briefing very early on Wednesday morning this week, at which it showcased its redesigned badge, as well as unveiling a new vehicle in the form of the Wildcat EV. Given that Buick's North American output is just SUVs, you'd be forgiven for thinking the Wildcat would be an SUV, but instead it's a sporty coupe that Buick portrayed as not a preview of a new model, but a preview of future design language for the company. It's important to note too that in China, where Buick is rather large, the brand offers a range of models, including SUVs, hatchbacks, sedans and minivans, so it's conceivable that the Wildcat is less for North American audiences and more instead for Chinese market ones. Buick says it's going all-electric as a brand, and we'll see the first EV in the form of the Electra this summer, another premium SUV that Buick was cagey about the launch date for. Earlier this year, it was looking like Chevrolet and parent company GM had pretty much all but forgotten about the Chevrolet Bolt EV and Bolt EUV, focusing instead on the promised Silverado EV, Blazer EV and Equinox EV. You'd be forgiven for thinking that the Bolt and Bolt EUV would quietly be retired as the brand tried to recover from the damage the Bolt EV fires did to its reputation. But with the Bolt EV and Bolt EUV production finally restarted and Chevrolet spending big bucks on new ad campaigns for both, we were pleasantly surprised this week to learn Chevrolet's price cut for the Bolt and Bolt EUV. For the just announced 2023 model year, both cars will get somewhere around a $6,000 slash off their previous MSRP. The entry-level Bolt LT will start at $25,600 before mandatory fees. This undercuts the Nissan Leaf and makes the Bolt EV far more affordable for many new car buyers. The Bolt EUV, meanwhile, will now start from $27,200. We still think the Chevrolet Bolt EV is a cracking, no-nonsense car, and frankly, the closest thing to a European-styled hot chat available in the US today. As the electric vehicle marketplace heats up, we're starting to see more and more legacy automakers lean in to producing competitive EVs. This week, Ford took another step towards its electric transition, announcing a total $3.7 billion of investment in creating 6,200 jobs across the US. While some of the announced jobs will go into building internal combustion engine products, the majority of the money will be sent to the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, to expand its production capacity to 150,000 F-150 Lightnings per year. Plus, $95 million will be sent to begin a third shift at the Kansas City facility where the e-Transit is made, and $1.5 billion will be used to establish production at what Ford said is a, quote, all-new EV commercial vehicle that will hit the roads mid-decade. While legacy auto is moving far slower than we'd like to electrify their offerings, it is good to see progress finally being made. Predicting how far an electric vehicle can go per charge is particularly complicated. You not only have to account for onboard load, driving style, weather and health of the battery, but the types of roads you're driving on too. Luckily, most automakers now seem to have pretty much nailed down fairly decent range estimates for the majority of normal roads. But what about off-road, where mud and sand, extreme elevations and constant start-stops over rocks can really impact vehicle efficiency? Well, that's where one Rivian R1T owner came in, recently trying to get a better estimate of real-world range for their R1T. Enter Rex Briggs, a data scientist who took some time off to tackle the Coyote flat off-road trail in his new R1T, recording data as he went. Travelling some 100 miles, 160 kilometres, Rex was able to calculate a real-world off-road range of around 137 miles, 220 kilometres per charge. That is far, far less than the on-road range quoted by the EPA, but hey, I know which route would be much more fun. Oh, and of course, your own mileage may and will vary. Nissan's Ariya electric SUV is a vehicle whose global launch plans has been severely impacted by COVID-19 and the subsequent automotive parts shortage. This week, we learned that more waits are on the cards, with Nissan instructing US dealers to stop taking orders for the 2023 model year Ariya. The reason? Parts supply. Nissan says it doesn't want to take massive amounts of orders for vehicles it can't easily deliver, so if you don't already have a pre-reservation, you're likely going to need to wait a fair while to get a car. That said, while we did focus on Nissan here, it isn't just a Nissan issue. Pretty much every automaker, including Tesla, have found themselves in a similar position with higher demand than supply. If you watch this channel, you know I love being on two wheels, and one of my favourite types of motorcycle to ride is a dual sport adventure. There's something about being in the saddle of a go-anywhere dual sport that just can't be matched by another bike type. But in the electric motorcycle world, the closest we've got to a dual sport thus far is a 0DS, a great motorcycle, but one which isn't really built for long-distance rides thanks to its limited onboard charging and no DC quick charge. So this week, when Italian motorcycle company Energica announced its first tourer, the Energica Experian, my long QT heart skipped a beat. And no, it wasn't the long QT. With a more upright position than other bikes from the stable, this motorcycle isn't quite a dual sport and is meant for long-distance road travel rather than long-way rounding it. But with space for luggage and DC quick charging capabilities as standard, its 130-mile, 209-kilometre highway range is certainly enough to get away from it all a bit. And yes, we've asked for a ride. I expect Kate and I will fight that one out to see who gets to ride first. And finally, Star Wars has long partnered with automakers to advertise its vehicles, allowing automakers the chance to benefit from the cultural phenomenon that is Star Wars. And hey, I've been part of that too, indirectly at least, being chosen to cosplay as a Jedi as a guest of Nissan at a special preview of The Last Jedi a few years ago. But this week, a different automaker got in on the EV and Star Wars act. Volkswagen. It's just launched a new ad campaign combining the latest Star Wars show, Obi Wan Kenobi, with a promotion for its Volkswagen ID Buzz electric minivan. Fellow Guildhall School of Music and Drama alum Ewan McGregor makes an appearance, as does 3PO and R2-D2. Given that Volkswagen used to advertise some of its vehicles pre-Dieselgate with a child cosplaying as Lord Vader, it is good to see the company move to the light side of the Force. It spent way too long being a Sith. And on that note, we are done for the day. Before I go though, do make sure you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest in EV news from this channel. And of course, if you haven't already switched yet, you should totally switch to New Zealand's only carbon zero certified renewable electricity company. It is super easy to make the switch, and in doing so, you'll be helping New Zealand wean itself off dirty energy and onto clean green power that will keep the land beautiful for generations to come. I'll be back next week with more awesome content, but until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Nikki Gordon Bloomfield. Ka kite. See you next time.